Paul McConnell from the Dr. Lawyer team, and I'm here with our in-house counsel, Dr. Mike. We're going to talk to you about how our veteran background gives us an advantage, we think, and helps us represent our veteran clients. And what am I talking about in terms of representing veteran clients? Well, we have kind of a niche practice here at the Dr. Lawyer team, in addition to our standard personal injury practice of medical malpractice and personal injury. We also represent veterans across the nation. Under the Federal Tort Claims Act and other things such as the 1151 applications that Dr. Mike's going to talk about in a second. FTCA, Federal Tort Claims Act, for example, suing the military hospitals or VA hospitals for medical malpractice, or the United States Postal Service. You're involved in a truck accident with a postal carrier. So those are the types of claims we have, and we're going to talk about a little bit about our veteran background and what that brings to the table. So Mike, share what's I know, but share what's your veteran background and experience.
Sure. So I'm a retired naval medical officer, 31 years of service. I served in everything from submarines in the beginning, diving Navy, and then the Marine Corps for, since 1994, combat tours. So working as a field medical officer, as well as sometimes the Navy sent me to go work as a neurosurgeon in a naval hospital. Part of almost every doctor's training in the United States is you spend time in the VAs. I think I worked in 3 different VAs, the Manhattan VA, Iowa City VA, and the St. Louis VA. That's part of your training. So I've seen VAs, I've seen military hospitals, I've seen it all in the military, practicing, both whether it's wartime or in peacetime.
You've lived the military life for 30-some years, right?
Yep, I know the military life, I know how military people think, I know how their families think, which is important because sometimes people don't realize we think just a little bit differently.
I think people know from reading your bio, you also did deployments both Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's correct.
And just for the benefit of our viewers, my background was I served, similar to Mike, 30 years, since we're getting along in the tooth. Both retired now. I'm a retired colonel in the United States Marine Corps. I was originally an infantry officer and deployed in the Gulf War, and then later was a judge advocate and was a judge in the Marine Corps, and then later left and went into private practice. Well, first as a federal prosecutor, then private practice. And like Dr. Mike, I also deployed, first as I mentioned, the Gulf War, and then later to Afghanistan. So, we bring those experiences to the table as well. So we bring those experiences to the table.
Did you work in the Abu Ghraib deal?
I was a judge of 2 of the Abu Ghraib trials. I don't know, some of the younger folks don't even know what we're talking about there, but they were interesting cases to be sure. So let's talk about what our background brings. I don't know if you want to in terms of the 1151 claims or federal tort claims. How does it help?
Well, sure. Federal tort claims, again, are going to be the medical malpractice and injury type cases where you have to prove a military or a government doctor in general, VA or government doctors, military government doctors, has done something below the standard, or the hospital did something below the standard that's expected of them that caused client harms. And those are really no different than claims in a regular state court. There's some technical differences, but that has more to do with process, how the government does things. But an often overlooked type of claim is what's called in the VA an 1151 claim. These don't have to be full malpractice or negligence. So, for instance, if a veteran is at a hospital, VA hospital, and he's harmed, it can be shown that the harm was during the time he was being cared for at the VA. Then there's 2 avenues under which he can collect. One, of course, is if there was some kind of negligence. So there's actually that claim, and there could be a malpractice claim. But the other avenue, which people often overlook, is that if it's an unforeseen complication, something just really no practitioner would have said, hey, this is a risk of this type of surgery. The VA has these reviewed by experts. I actually do some of these types of reviews for the VA. And if the expert says, hey, this is a crazy complication, this guy's really pretty damaged, but no one would have ever thought of this one, the person can collect under that. So it's a little technically different than a regular claim. But since we're vets and we know about these things, we know about the VA, we both go to the VA for our care. We can really focus you in the right direction.
And also, we've been through the disability claims process coming back from combat, and we're familiar with everything that veterans and family members have been through and experienced. I guess I should also add, while I mentioned before, I was a federal prosecutor. While I was primarily a criminal prosecutor, I did have some experience in defending claims under the Federal Tort Claims Act, because what happens is when you file a lawsuit, first you submit a claim, and it's covered in other videos, and then sometimes we'll file a lawsuit. When you do, you file it in district court, and then the local United States attorney, whether it's here in Connecticut, it would be in New Haven, or St. Louis, or California, whatever the local U.S. attorney is, they're the ones that defend the United States. They defend the VA or the military hospital. So I have exposure and experience from my experience at the U.S. Attorney's Office being on the defense side. And then if you read my bio, you know that when I was a young judge advocate, we were involved on the defense side of claims.
So in other words, you know how the other side thinks.
That's right, that's right. And how the process works and approvals, you know, what various levels of approvals you need. But anyway, we get too far in the details. We just kind of wanted to give an overview. We hope you found this interesting and helpful. We look forward to hearing from you.